לא. אז אתם כבר יודעים שיש כזה buzzword שהוא על אינפורמציה שצריכה להיות הכי קרובה שאפשר כל הזמן בכל מקום. כשמדברים על אינפורמציה מדברים על storage, אז דאטה, דוקומנט, etc. מדברים על דיבור בין האנשים, מדברים על כל מיני דברים וכל מיני חומרים, וזה נורא קשה לראות מה איפה. מה שנורא חשוב זה לראות שהדברים הם קיימים, הם במקום, אבל מי שלא יודע איפה למצוא אותם, זה נורא קשה בשבילו, ואין לזה, הוא לא יכול לבנות משהו עם זה. מה שג'ייב עושה, הוא לשים באמצע לא אינפורמציה, לא קונטנט, לא דאטה, לא CRM, לא etc. אבל אנשים. אנשים שיוכלו לטפל בנולד כדי לדבר עם הלקוחות, ביניהם, לבנות משהו, כדי להיות בטוחים שהם יכולים קשה. להביא משהו יותר טוב לחברה. So, just switching to English, we're talking about increasing productivity when there is revenue generating activity. We're talking about reducing cost, and we're talking about ensuring that the knowledge that we build in the organization stays in the organization. If you think about all the knowledge worker, people who know about different things, but they never thought about writing it. These are not processes. These are not, I would say, this is common knowledge that people have, and when they leave the company, the knowledge goes away with them. They talk about it at the coffee machine. They talk about it if somebody comes and asks, can you help me? But they will never put this in writing unless they have to. All endeavors around putting things in writing, like standards like ISO 9000 and everything, like lean management, like all of this, is happening, but it is very tough and is asking a lot from the organization. But what you get from the coffee machine, if you could put a video or a camera or an audio in the coffee machine, is invaluable to the company. So the idea of Jive is to say, all of this conversation, you can keep them. Not to do just conversation between people just to talk, like you do in Facebook, like you do in other systems, but to talk, to build. So you need to have a goal, matara, to build around your software. So the idea is that the software is here to articulate common work between the people to achieve something. Why? Well, because people who are not committed don't deliver. Because people who don't know exactly what they have to do can't really actually achieve it. Because people who understand what they have to do can align to it and can build together with it. Why again? Value. Value in terms of reducing cost, value in terms of training, enabling people, and value in terms of increasing employee satisfaction, increasing any metrics that you will have. By the way, part of the exercise that we're doing when we work with a customer in the first place is that we are, first of all, trying to identify what will bring them value. And around this, build a whole business case, and then the technology is below to empower this business case and to ensure that they really can have a goal that all the organization can align to and that they can measure. If you look at examples of digital workplace that we have worked on, you will see that the look and feel is every time different. You will see that the type of organization we work is every time different. And there is a lot of thought that is put around every design, every way of interacting. And the reason for this is that what we're trying to look at is what will make people really benefit from the platform and adopt it as their day-to-day approach. Jive is available from smartphones as well as from computers, which allow people to easily connect from where they want and add value to the equation. If you look, we have companies like PwC, Société Générale in France, Citibank, Orange as a group, Disney, all sorts of companies from all markets that enable us to really help companies go forward. Other examples in other verticals, you'll see this is completely different design. But again, the idea here is to ensure that we can adjust to the requirement of each company. All of this can be done in a short amount of time as an initial configuration, and can grow based on the requirements of the company. Why this? Because first of all, any company or any government organization needs a soul. That is, after all, in any situation we're human, and every software that can help creating links between people, as Galit said, be it I would say strong links or weak links, helps people interact because they've seen each other before, because they have pictures, they have videos, they can tie to it.
What do you do about global people that have more than one language? Like global companies, can you have a mixture of languages on the same platform?
Yes, so you can have a mixture of all type of languages. Languages, למשל שפות, but also languages that are departments that have different internal languages.
Okay.
You can have different cultures, so by group of geographies. So any sort of communication that is different within the organization, you can adjust to it, and you can ensure that you're able to make sure that people don't have to adapt to the platform, but the platform adapt to them. If you look just for a minute at what your day-to-day is, if you think it would be great if, that is the sentence that starts a Jive project. It would be great if I could get training every time I need it, if I have a meeting tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and prepare it at 11 p.m. if I want, by having videos online to help me, and somebody awake around the globe to help me out. For that, there would be online enablement session on the platform, and I can search here, for example, and find somebody who is skilled in the field that I need, and who is awake, that is working in different parts of the globe, and who can help me. So for global organization, it opens up all the perspective because it enables people to understand where they want to go and make sure that it happens. So it works with onboarding and training, but it also works with corporate communication internally, ensuring that people are aligned to the corporate messaging, are aligned with the company culture, are aligned with the metrics of the company and what they want to achieve. Know what they can and cannot do, and this platform can exist internally within the organization and can be extended to customers, to providers, and create a virtual community. Another thing that is important, and we'll drill down into this also a little later, is to ensure that whatever we create is not sent in the air and we don't know what happens with this. So metrics are also important. Who looks at the content? Why? What's the trend? Was it a initial hype and then nobody cared? Is it something that people go back to regularly? Etc., etc. So all of this is really to tune the information course. Go ahead.
Do you have different environments for external and internal connections?
Yes and no. So basically it depends on how you want to set it up. You can have different platforms, one for external and one for internal. And you can have groups, internal groups, where you invite external collaborators. Like say for example that you're working in a marketing project and you have contractors, you can decide that you will invite them in a limited space, in a group, so that they can collaborate with you in spite of the fact that they're not from your company. But you will configure their access so that they can't see everything else that is happening in the company, of course. You can also build a totally separate platform, which in our, I would say, way of talking is called Jive External. So the JiveX, the abbreviation is JiveX, and that allows you to build customer engagement platform, customer support platform, so platforms totally dedicated to the outside. So you can really do as you wish on this. When you look at communication, many people talk about top-down communication, that is corporate talking to the people. You also can imagine feedback from people working in the company to executives, adding comments, adding information, creating dynamic, as well as interaction between peers around the internal communication and ensuring that people have what it needs. At Jive, for example, we both use Jive for our day-to-day work, but also to plan gathering, outings, and I would say social activities around the office. The value of this is the fact that we are able to really bring the platform into our day-to-day life, and therefore make it automatic to use it when we need it, when we have a question. If I have a question on who's available this afternoon to go have a beer, I could put it in. If I have a question on who is able to work on a strategic project and help me build a huge business case, I can put it here also. So it's part of the way we work, as long as it helps build something. Of course, that means that we can connect from anywhere and use the application from anywhere. That would be that you can bring in information from any external system into Jive in order to integrate it and get the knowledge from where it is if you don't want to bring it in or transfer it all together. It means that anyone from anywhere can sit in the bus on the way to the office and still comment on things and still start working within the Jive application.
Example, if I work in a bank and they have the security problems and they work with the third-party proxy for their using their mobile phones to get their emails. Okay, the Jive can integrate with the third-party company so that I can see Jive on my mobile phone. I'm just giving an example, you know, for security reasons.
So in terms of security, the nice thing about Jive is that it can be used on-premise, so at the customer side, hosted by a third party, or as a cloud version. Okay. So based on the requirement that you have, basically if you want to live in a bunker and stay there, you can still use Jive if you want to, because it's still totally locked. The choice that Jive has made in terms of strategy is to say that we have to put people in the center, hence customers in the center, and if customers don't want cloud, we have to help them anyway. If they do want cloud, it's easy for everyone.
Yeah.
So we also appreciate cloud. Another thing that is really important is, I mentioned it earlier a little bit, is the fact that we don't know what happens to the content we publish. And people can work, and sometimes it happens that big teams work on content that is never looked at. Why? Well, we don't really know. And some other times, some people work on very limited things, and the points get there. 2 words, 2 sentences sometimes get more efficiency, and sometimes it's the beginning of something else. And so the idea here is to measure the impact of the content that we publish, of the discussions, of the trends, and also to anticipate and analyze. If we see that the sentiment of the content related to HR or corporate strategy is very often negative during a certain period, HR want to know about this. Managers want to know about this in order to create corrective activities or create new endeavors in order to ensure that things go back in the right direction. If people in the company feel extremely committed and motivated and there is a lot of energy going around, well, it is interesting to use that energy in order to create something additional. So building idea jams, for example, allow people to brainstorm on many things around the company, something that relates to their day-to-day business or something that doesn't relate at all to their day-to-day business, but they thought about and they thought it could bring value. Example, I went to a customer meeting a couple of days ago that has high security standards. And I came in without any problem. If I did work in that company, I would say, listen guys, there is something going weird in your security policies because I came in without giving any ID to come in, where your security policy is extremely high. So that would be idea jam, for example, add a security checkpoint here, do this, do that, etc. So again, with this, we have best practices in order for all these exchanges not to become sources of frustration. Because if people start talking and nothing is ever done with what they talk about, it doesn't lead very far. If they know what to expect, if they know that behind every idea that they give, there is a process that helps them understand what's going to happen with the idea. For example, idea voting. For example, we thought it was a great idea, but unfortunately it's not feasible these days. And then 2 years later, go back to the idea and say, oh, now it makes sense. It creates a memory of the organization that allows the organization to build with the feedback that is received on the platform. It is as if the coffee machine had a memory. And all coffee machines of the organization had a memory.
How do you measure the sentiment of the messages?
So how do you measure the sentiments of the people? You look at how they react, how many people like the content, how many people share the content, how many people go back to the content. And
so negative sentiment is if no one acknowledges the content?
That would be nobody looks at it. That
Yeah.
would be people look at it but just go away, don't go back when we want them to.
Instead of like, they
No, there is no dislike. It's
Okay.
like, in general, we try to not dislike publicly, but
Yeah, okay.
how people comment. And sometimes, and we look at words and comments can be negative or positive, so that helps too. Understand the sentiment.
But I have a question, because I know Jive a bit. How do you not lose control? Because every employee can open any group he wants. And then you have one person that manages everything. How can you start, looking at each group and checking every... It's almost impossible to control the...
So, it is true that if there are no rules whatsoever, and if you let everybody do anything, then it can become complicated. However, because it is in writing, people try and tend not to make fool of themselves. And if they do too much, the crowd will help them go back to normal. There is also in the system a list of words that you can't use. And if they're used, then the content is tagged, so that there are no insults going around or nothing totally weird. And you can also, I would say from an administration perspective, set triggers in order to look at things and decide that these people have the right to open a group, these people don't have the right to, etc., etc. So you can define and decide what is the strategy that you want with regards to the management of the platform. Now, there is I would say, a medium to find between giving the ability to people to speak and to be autonomous with the tool, and the fact that you need a minimum control of what is happening. So in some companies, some groups are totally closed, and only some people can publish and people just look at them. And in others, it's just free, but in general, it stays okay because people are, I would say, called by the crowd. It does happen that somebody goes a little too far, and then other people, you look at the comments after, go back and say, listen, you shouldn't say this, and you can delete your comment, and you can just, reorganize what has been said in order to forget a little bit about it. So it's a mix of best practices, and we have courses and workshops of strategy consulting in terms of best practices, together with common sense, I would say. You can never prevent people from saying stupid things by email. You can never prevent people from tweeting to the entire world stupid things about the company if they want to. So there is some kind of risk that you have to take when you go central. But it is the same risk that you take if you let anyone go out of the company and speak to people in the street. And I guess all of us are used to that risk already. Another thing is, and that's a very beautiful image, but it does make sense, right? is to understand the ties between the different departments and the streams of collaboration. If I say, for example, that this is the legal department and this is the team in Chile, I can say that there is a tie that goes quite well in terms of stream between the two. Is it a good thing between there is a lot of business happening in Chile? Is it a problem of enablement of the team? Is it something that we should, that say that we should envisage having a legal team locally in Chile? It can say a number of things. What is important in all of this is to be able to understand the ties, the informal ties between the teams and between the people in order to create what is missing. So connect
So
the dots.
if I get you right, Jive can help a company map the communications between companies and people in their company
Yeah,
and learn from it.
exactly.
Okay.
So as long as they're all Jive users, you can map them and help them connect without any problem. So you can understand the enablement that you have to build. You can understand the issue that you have to solve, and you can also take advantage of the best practices that naturally come up. There used to be that great story to explain what artificial intelligence was about. It was the story of a guy trying to build an architect trying to build a university. So he put all the building in the university, and he didn't put roads. And people told him, so people need roads. And he said, no, look at it. Wait a minute, they opened the university for a day, and then he took a map from the air and looked at all the steps. And he said, these are the places where we need to build roads. Why? Because they were the natural steps that the students took during the day. That show that were the places where most people would go if they were roads. So basically the roads did mirror the real life activity. Actually, in that instance, on the first day, everybody go to register. So that might not be true, but let's say that for the purpose of the image, it's a good image. Last but not least, people say people. This is our Chief Product Officer at Jive. And knowing that she's a smart and smiling person makes connection quite easy when we have to request for additional information on roadmap and give customer feedback, etc. We can see the skills of the person, both coming from the core business of the person as well as from their other abilities in other scopes of expertise. We can see the communication trends. We can see the team they belong to. And we can even create, using the gamification module, a system of points where each person will have a number of points allocated every time they do something that benefits the group. It is the administrator who decides what is benefit and what is the group. So bringing helpful information, answering support tickets because they had the same issue, etc., etc. So you can imagine many different ways, but the idea is to create some kind of a competition between people in order to foster collaboration between them. Back to enablement. This is really critical. You all know about all online universities that are available everywhere. All the MOOCs that we're talking about in every and each university. Here, there used to be one of the first who did this was the Università Autónoma here, but it's now becoming super widespread around the world. People are used to consume knowledge online, and it would be a huge loss for the company to not use this as a tool to help people on board, share information, and build information. At Jive, for example, we have some kind of alumni network. So for all the people who came on the same month that I did and went to enablement on the same month that I did, we belong to the same group. And we can go to each other, we can share advice, share best practices. And maybe in a year we won't need that group anymore, but maybe we will because we'll have different challenges, and because of the number of months or years we will be in the company, we will share something and we will be able to help each other. So creating that, I would say, closeness between people within the mass of global people is also something that is really important. If I need to summarize, Jive philosophy is putting people in the center, be it customers or people working in the organization. Enable people to collaborate, to communicate, and to connect. So connect would be the low ties that Galit mentioned earlier. Communicate would be about interaction about the subject, and collaborate is really to work together towards a business end. From a technical standpoint, we can integrate with the rest of the IT system because this is not a standalone activity. We acknowledge the fact that over time, an organization will need additional systems to be used within this one. And of course, measure to understand where we're going, if we're going in the right direction, and if what is being built is along the lines of what is useful for the company. We have two flavors of this. One is for internal communities with a focus on social intranet, employee engagement and support, and external communities with a focus on customer support, marketing engagement, and building partner enablement. So when we say partner, it can be resellers, it can be it would be providers, and I would say subcontractors, and ensure that there is engagement with all these partners in the ecosystem. If you look both in Israel and worldwide, there are Jive community more or less everywhere around us, because it really helps answer questions, create, I would say, engagement with customers, and ensure that customers and prospects feel part of the company they buy from. People come back, I'm not going to go back to the old discussions about it does cost much more to gain a new customer than to pamper the existing customers. Everybody know about this. It's common knowledge by now, but we still see many companies who make great, attractive price offer to new customer and totally forget their existing customers. So we all know that it costs more to win a new customer than to pamper the existing one, but still most company strategies go back to, I'm going to invest in new customers and not invest in existing customers. So this is a way to invest in existing customers for what they want, and they might not want price reduction every time, but more engagement, more ensuring that we listen to them and that they really have a care for the brand that they're using. This can be done in many different flavors corresponding to the site of the different companies. Last but not least, and it's going to be my last slide, analysts say we're great, so I'm not going to say we're great, I'm just saying that third parties say we're great. And Gartner just published a new white paper that again says that we're extremely visionary and the best on Earth, if not of the galaxy. So I encourage you to go download this white paper from our website if you want. It is, of course, free of charge, and you can get more knowledge about us. Do you have questions for me before we go to the demo? Yes?
This slide, we can see it from here, but can you name at least the top 2 or 3 competitors and mention what is the added value that you have in your product in comparison to the other competitors?
Okay. Worst competitors that we have is doing nothing. That is, deciding to go work on the social collaboration project is a new endeavor. And many people can say, I don't need it. It's like when you're talking to somebody who has a bike, and you say, no, you could buy a car because you're biking 200 kilometers a day. The person can say, you know what, it's a great idea, but I can't. Or I don't want to, or not right now. So the biggest competitor for us is to just think that we can live with a bike even if we live in Jerusalem and work in Tel Aviv, which is quite a long way every morning.
I didn't get it. I mean, can you mention other vendors
No,
that do
no,
the same?
I'm just slicing with
Okay.
the answer. So I'm not going away from the tachlis. I'm just saying that the biggest competitor is really doing nothing. Now, in terms of other types of competitors, I would say you could have an IBM version of competition. That would be a mix of SharePoint and Yammer. We could have a Microsoft competition. And there are a lot of
And
small
also
vendors.
SAP.
You can have also SAP. And you also have a nucleus of a small vendor who do part of what we do in some arena. But most of the time we just face IBM or Microsoft as a competition.
How is the Hebrew support, or are you going to talk about it later?
No, I can talk about it now. So today we have, I would say, demos and pilots working in Hebrew.
What company, you can name a company that's using it or starting to use it in Israel?
Using the software in Israel in English.
Whatever. Let's start with English.
Where we are.
Okay.
Computer Associates. Intel do too.
PwC.
PwC does.
But in English, not
In English, yeah, that's why I asked if they have support in Hebrew.
So
She was in PwC before, and now in her new company, she wants to bring Jive because you had a good experience with Jive.
So with regards to Hebrew, we have a pilot working, we have demos working, and we're in the process of either via third party or us, but rather via third party, to have it full Hebrew support. So of course it's a chicken and egg situation where you need a customer to justify the investment and you need to invest to get customers.
Yeah, but if you have a global company that has, like, I'll talk about where I come from. My old job was in Bank Leumi. It's a global company. They want it in Hebrew, in English, Romanian, French, There has to be a platform that speaks more than one language. Hebrew is also one of them.
When they will put the money for, when they will reach the decision
That's one of the first questions
that they want it tomorrow.
companies in Israel ask,
Okay.
is they want Hebrew.
So the answer is, if the company says we want it tomorrow, we will have Hebrew tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay?
So basically around this, the idea is that global companies, we have the software in many different languages available already. With regards to Hebrew, via third party, that's possible.
From your experience, take not an Israeli company, but a global company like Citibank, okay? They have, what language, do they have, this job is usually in English, so everybody can read it, or they have local languages for local people, from your experience?
So I would say they're both.
Okay.
We will have standard, I would say, language for marketing, communication, etc. And then local deployment. It's the same platform, so you can create a group, you can
That can
tailor
speak
it.
in their own language.
You can tailor it to your need.
There is an ability in Jive to translate the page that you are seeing in English to French, or to Spanish, or to whatever language you are looking for.
And it's
So
better
you
than
can-
Google?
What?
It's better than Google?
לא הייתי שמח על זה.
Based on these kind of, it's automatic translation. It's
Okay.
not a person reading and translating it, but there is an ability to automatically translate content into different languages if that is the need of the customer.
בתרגום.
Okay.
בתרגום.
It is possible to write in Hebrew. The same
It
way
is possible.
it is possible in Facebook or in WhatsApp to work in Hebrew. It is possible. The main change is full Hebrew support.
No,
Full bidirectional Hebrew.
what she's trying to say is that you can publish in Hebrew.
Yes.
The only question what she talks about is whether the menus will be adjusted to Hebrew, will be in Hebrew. But as to data, you can enter in Hebrew, of course. We do it all the time.
Yeah, but it's opposite, isn't it? יש את הדאט בסוף, קצת מעצבן. ממה שאני זוכרת.
זה משמאל לימין בקיצור, לא בימין לשמאל.
אני זוכרת שעשינו ניסוי ולא הלך לשם.
מנהלים יש יותר טובים. In the groups. No. Where you were, just they want to do it. What management?
To the internet. You search and you get the information. Now, would it be complementary
It's a
to
completely different approach. So
Yeah.
in a way, it could be a cultural clash. You have to work
No,
on the
'cause
cultural
what-
part aspects, no?
So what you can do is always
I'm talking about the implementation stage,
No,
where you
so-
have to sell the idea to the company, to the work, to the employees. Okay, say, what should I use? Should I use this? Remember, for years you're trying to get them to use the knowledge management. You know what I'm talking about. And now you have to change your.
So if you want to change smoothly, the idea that you could use is always to have a smooth transition by creating integrations between your old system and your new system. So this is something that you can always do, and that is not a problem. So if you
I'm
want,
not talking about problem. I'm talking
no,
about.
I'm talking in terms of
It's a different methodology, so you have to
Yeah.
implement a different methodology. If I'm
it's
saying it not as a negative thing, I'm trying to understand.
I
I'm
will
really.
give you an example.
את יכולה לדבר בעברית, זה לא אכפת לי, לא שנוח לכם.
הרעיון הוא שהרבה מאוד מהפורטלים, הסטנדרטים שבנינו, מכילים את המידע הפורמלי, המובנה, ההיררכי, הארגוני. אפשר לעשות חיבור בין הפורטלים האלה לבין הג'ייב. יש יכולת לחבר בין ג'ייב לבין מערכות אחרות של פורטלים ארגוניים. מצד אחד. מצד שני, אפשר גם להגיד, חבר'ה, את המידע הפורמלי תצרכו מכאן. את המידע שהוא דינמי, שצומח מהשטח, שמבוסס על שאלות ועל תשובות של אנשים, תצרכו מכאן, ויכול להיות שיהיה לנו פה הרבה מאוד לינקים למידע הפורמלי, שזה לגמרי בסדר. אפשר לעשות רכיב שעושה לינקים למידע הפורמלי, כלומר, החיבור הזה בין מידע פורמלי למידע שהוא דינמי וצומח מהשטח, הוא פשוט דרך שאפשר לחבר את שני המקורות האלה. הם לא, זה לא או זה או זה, אלא זה ביחד. כן, אביגדור.
בג'ייב יש דרכים שונות לגשת למידע שרוצים בהקשר הנכון. למשל, שם בתפריט רואים שיש אקטיביטי, יש קונטנט, שזה כמו מערכת ניהול ידע רגילה, יש people ויש reports, ועכשיו יש את הגרופס, זאת אומרת, יש דרכים שונות. אפשר ליצור סביבה שהיא היררכית, אפשר ליצור אם מאוד מאוד רוצים, זה פשוט לא מומלץ. זה לא
ממש לא מומלץ.
אבל זה אפשרי אם רוצים לכפות את זה, כדי ליצור שליטה מוחלטת. אבל יש סוגים שונים של סביבות עבודה, אם זה מיועד לפרויקט, אם זה מיועד ל-community of practice, community of interest, לכל אחד יש את הפתרון שלו, פשוט ברגע שיוצרים קבוצה חדשה, בוחרים את הסגנון הרצוי. ובנוסף לסידור של תוכן שרואים בעולם של קונטנט, אפשר לעשות שימוש מאוד חזק בתגיות, כי אפשר למשל, שאנחנו רואים פה עכשיו אקטיביטי, הרי בפייסבוק יש אקטיביטי פיד אחד. פה יכולים להיות הרבה מאוד אקטיביטי פיד, כל אחד לעולם תגיות אחר.
וכל אחד יכול לבנות לו פרופיל לעצמו איזה פיד הוא רוצה לראות?
בדיוק, כן, ויכול להיות פיד של אנשים, אנשים מסוימים.
כאילו to follow certain people כמו בלינקדאין.
כן, אני יכול למשל להגיד שאני רוצה פיד של כל מה שקשור לאנג'ינירינג. ואז אני רואה את זה ולא דברים. אחר כך מישהו ירצה פיד שקשור לקווליטי אנליזיס.
או שאני רוצה שבן אדם מסוים. אפשר גם את זה?
כן, או קבוצת אנשים מסוימת, כן.